Seoul is a great place to go if you would like a world-class selection of vintage film cameras and you already have enough film to put in them. Cameras, lenses, straps, filters, everywhere. Film? One guy in the camera district in one store might have some in the basement somewhere, but it's expired. I'm exaggerating, but like, barely. In today's video, I'll talk about film photography in Korea. Specifically Seoul, because that is the city that I recently visited. I wanted to go to every film camera store in Seoul, and I honestly made a pretty decent dent. I went to about 15 stores, mostly clustered in these areas, as well as a few assorted kiosks in flea markets around the city. I visited the big flagship stores for the major camera brands. I also visited hole-in-the-wall stores, the well-reviewed, the poorly reviewed, and I'm here to report on what I saw. So if you have a trip to Seoul planned in the near future, which I highly recommend you do, it's a pretty fantastic place, save this video for future reference. Also, in addition to saving this video, you can leave a like, you can leave a comment, or dare I say, you can subscribe to my channel. I put out new photography-related content almost every week, including film reviews, travel stuff like this, street photography POVs, video essays, blah blah blah, all kinds of stuff. So if that sounds interesting to you, do consider hitting that subscribe button. Also, I am very tired in today's video, oh my god. I just landed yesterday after visiting Korea and Japan. I've been away for the last 3 weeks, and it is the equivalent of like 4 AM right now for me. So I'm very sleepy, and I'm gonna try and keep it coherent throughout this video. But if you notice my energy levels are a bit all over the place, that might have something to do with why. I have a giant coffee, so I'll be hitting this up throughout the video as well. Okay, with all that said, and without further ado, let's jump right in and talk about film photography in Korea. Where to shop? Seoul has some great general purpose shopping areas, but for the most part, stores are clustered together into districts where every store sells similar products. We saw a plumbing supply area, an electric supply area, restaurant supply area, clothing area, skincare area, and of course, a camera area. The camera area is also a second floor bar area, so that was nice after a long day of street photography and popping into film photography stores. This area has large flagship stores like Canon, Nikon, and Leica. I tried to go into the Leica store at like 9:15 AM, and they let me look through the whole first floor and take pictures of everything and blah 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 before I tried to go up to the second floor, and someone came over and told me that the store was actually closed. Like, you know you can lock the door, the store is closed. I'm sorry, I've been in there for like 15 minutes. Along the same vein of the Leica flagship store, there are some other ultra fancy stores that sell boutique camera items, like these $120 handmade hot shoe and button caps. These stores have like 12 items for sale, usually Leica branded, and they're displayed in large glass cases like jewelry. I did not know that there was an Hermes x Leica collab, but there was, and I had never seen it before, and I'm sorry I didn't get a picture of it. I tried to, but I got kicked out of the Leica store before I could manage it. And I never went back after opening because I was a little bit embarrassed. But other luxury camera items include bespoke handmade straps and cases, and some places will just have these items on display marked not for sale as part of the decor of the shop. But for every one of these flagship or luxury coated camera stores, there are like 3 hole-in-the-wall stores that are more my style, with just vintage cameras piled floor to ceiling. I love a treasure hunt, right? And you can't really hunt for treasure when all of the treasure is displayed in large glass cases and priced correctly. That's no fun. Give me the dusty shelves that haven't been repriced in a decade. Usually, stores like these will have a bunch of vintage cameras and glass, and then a wall of film somewhere behind the cashier. If you're lucky, they'll have a big bowl of expired film somewhere on the counter. But unfortunately, this was not the case in most of the camera stores I visited in Seoul. Places that sold vintage cameras only really sold vintage cameras. There was no fresh film stock available to fill them with. Now, every time I went into one of these camera shops, I had a little picture on my phone of the words, "Excuse me, do you sell photographic film?" translated into Korean. And I would just like, huh? And they'd be like, mm-mm. A lot of the shopkeepers helped me out by directing me to other shops that did sell film. And in this whole area, I can tell you, only like 3 of them actually had film for sale. And of those 3, only 2 of them actually had a decent supply of new film. Of these 2, Saki PNC, I think it's pronounced Saki, this place was great. It had a giant film fridge, very helpful staff. It had that like community camera store vibe, really similar to Bow Photo, where you've got like development courses and classes and like nice displays of new film stocks, ways to print film and do all this. Yeah, it was cool. I went back a few times. I got some 120 film there. They had like a nice selection of that. And the other shop was just as cool. It was eWorld Photo, and that came recommended by 2 other shopkeepers. One guy actually like took me out of his store and like walked me down the block and then pointed at eWorld Photo. And I was like, thank you. And this place has more of a small business run by one guy sort of vibe. But I got some really cool stuff there as well, and I'll talk about that in the next section. There was also apparently one other film store that I didn't make it to, and that was called Film Log. And judging by the photos and reviews and like general presence on Google Business, film log seems like it probably would have been worth the trip. Like it seems like this is the place to go if you need film in Seoul, but I didn't make it there. Unfortunately, it was just too far away from where I was staying and I couldn't make the trip all the way out there for like one thing. Anyway, I also visited some assorted kiosks in the Seoul Folk Flea Market, but by the time that I got there, most of the camera-related kiosks had closed. We got there at like 4 p.m. and it closed at 7 p.m., but I got the feeling that people were packing up early and the merchandise was all covered. So I can recommend checking out the Seoul Folk Flea Market if you're looking for old camera gear, but I'm not 100% sure if anyone actually sells film there. So now that you know where to shop, let's talk about what film you can buy. Basically, all of the film you can buy in Seoul is the same stuff that you can get in America. Lots of Kodak, Cinestill, Harman Phoenix, Kentmere, Ilford, and that's it. Maybe a little sprinkling of lomography here and there. In this big film fridge, here's a picture, there's only a handful of brands, right? Most of it is Ilford. The prices are pretty darn similar to what they are in Canada, with a roll of Harman Phoenix being $17 and a roll of Kentmere being closer to $9. I always forget that Cinestill is so damn pricey, like $27 for one roll of film. I'm sorry. Just buy any other product that is a remjet removed Cinefilm and it will be half the price but exactly the same thing. You are just paying for the brand name when you buy Cinestill. In fact, there is a Japanese-based company called Merix that offers the entire Cinestill lineup for half the price, both in 24 and 36 exposure rolls. So you'd think you'd be able to find a bit of that in Korea, but I actually didn't see very much of it at all. I digress. I am always on a quest for new and different film stocks to try out, and so I was hoping I would see some offerings available from other Asia-based producers. Like, I wasn't expecting film that is made in Korea. There is no film manufacturing in Korea, but at least film that is produced for the Korean market. Give me a box of film with Korean on it, and I will be happy. Or even a box with a language other than English on it, and I'll be happy. Surely someone somewhere is buying master rolls, cutting them up, and then reselling them under a new brand name, right? Like, there are dozens of companies that do that in America and Europe, and other parts of Asia like China and Japan, so Korea must have at least a few, right? Out of the 15 stores that I visited, I only found one set of films in one place that I didn't recognize, and that was at eWorld Photo. They are selling this box set of 2 different Cinefilms. These are both ECN2 films. They have Japanese on them. It is not Korean. I think one is supposed to be tinted orange and the other one is tinted blue, and these were selling for $35 for the set. I shot this one in Seoul while I was there. It says return to in-studio for quality processing. I did not return to in-studio. I couldn't find in-studio. And so for the entire rest of my trip, I was looking for a place that would develop ECN2, and I couldn't find one. I went to 3 places in Kyoto, which was the next stop on my journey, and none of them would take it. So I think I'm gonna have to learn how to develop ECN2 on my own at home at some point in the near future. But first, I'm gonna need to get comfortable with the basics of black and white film developing. Y'all saw me try that for the first time a few weeks ago. And like, it went well, I got photos out of it, but it was a little bit more stressful than it needed to be. But luckily, I now have some options for learning how to do that a little bit more smoothly, because today's video is sponsored by Skillshare. I have always wondered what this platform was all about since so many of my favorite YouTubers talk about it, and now I've been able to try it out firsthand. Skillshare is the largest online learning community for creatives, with thousands of classes led by industry experts across film, illustration, design, freelance, productivity, and more. Skillshare can help you take your career, skills, hobbies, passions, or side hustles to the next level. And in addition to creative classes, I was happy to see that there's a wide variety of marketing classes available as well. Y'all know that I'm a photographer and not like a marketing genius. But in 2025, I really want to step up my marketing game, and now I'm going to spend all winter learning how best to do that. No matter where you're at with your photography journey, Skillshare has a class for you. Whether you're just learning the basics of photography or mastering lighting, photo editing, or like me, you're trying to grow your photography business. The first 500 people to use my link in the description below will receive a 1-month free trial of Skillshare. So go and get some new skills and try Skillshare today. And of course, a huge thank you to Skillshare for sponsoring today's video. So, my quest in Seoul was to find any film stock that was not completely packaged in English. And this box set was the only modern product that I could find. They are made in Japan, not in Korea, but I was just happy to find something that was not packaged in America. And speaking of America, see all this Fujifilm? It's all made in the USA. So it's Kodak stock repackaged as Fujifilm and not the real deal. In Japan, they're selling the real deal made in Japan product, but Korea has to import its Fujifilm from America, just like the rest of us. I thought that was interesting. Finally, after days of exploring film photography stores with no luck, I was at my wit's end. I was ready to buy any film I could find with Korean on it. And eventually, I did find what I was looking for. So here are the 2 film stocks that I could find with Korean on their boxes. This is a long expired 12 exposure roll of Fujifilm, and this is a long expired 24 exposure roll of Konica Centuria. And in both cases, I had to convince the shopkeeper to sell it to me by means of Google Translate, since these film stocks are both so expired that I think the guys felt bad taking my money for them. I had a very funny exchange with one guy. I was like, typed into Google Translate, I'm looking for Korean branded film to buy, and I held it out to him. And he goes, and then he types something and he holds it back to me. He's like, do you eat Italian? No, we might not be communicating. But I wound up shooting this one in Kyoto. It, again, was only 12 rolls, so it was like 1 hike's worth of photos. And I'll shoot with the Centuria in the near future and hopefully post the results on my Instagram at some point. But apparently, film has not been produced for the Korean market in some time. Like, easily since the early 2000s, since both of these expired around 2003, I think. And this is strange to me because there are so many film cameras for sale, like everywhere. Everyone's selling film cameras. You would think that film photography is somewhat popular, but maybe it's just like camera collecting? I don't know. I looked online a bit for the answer to this question, like why are film cameras so popular, but then film is like really hard to find. And most of the folks I found just say that they buy all of their film from the one film store that I didn't visit, Filmlog. So that seems to be something of a destination for film photographers, and it's possible that people are just buying their cameras from all around and then buying their film from one place. But judging from the pictures of this store on Google Maps, they just have the same American and European film brands available as well, and nothing particularly Korean. So I don't know. I'm interested to hear your thoughts on this down in the comment section. If you live in Korea or if you've spent a lot of time there as a film photographer, is this just Seoul, or did I just not visit the right shops, or is the variety of products actually kind of limited? I would love to hear from folks who have spent more time there and who have been more involved in the film photography community. But for now, that is all for today's video. Hopefully you guys found this interesting, insightful. I know that some of you guys just like looking at pictures from camera stores around the world, so here's a bit of that for you. I'm gonna have another Seoul-related video up next week, because while I was visiting all of these stores, I was also filming a street photography walk and talk video with a vintage point and shoot camera and a fun flick film black and white stock. So stay tuned for that. And in the meantime, I want you guys to stay sharp and don't forget to keep shooting. Bye guys.